I actually did my ACL on the day that I found out that I was going to the World Cup.
I hadn't injured myself before. I kind of thought, oh, that'll never be me. Those people must be injury prone. So when it did actually happen, that's probably why I was in so much shock.
The growth in participation as well as coverage for women's sports has been clear for all to see in recent years. But an issue that's depriving many sportswomen of having the careers they want are ACL injuries. ACL stands for anterior cruciate ligament. This is one of the key ligaments that help stabilize the knee joint. It's most commonly torn during sports that involve sudden stops and changes in direction, such as football, tennis and netball. Women are 6 times more likely to tear their ACLs than men. Arsenal and England captain Leah Williamson is one of up to 30 footballers to have missed the current Women's World Cup due to ACL injuries alone. But netball is another sport where women are more predisposed to this particular injury.
It was very painful. I remember I was just playing netball. There was actually no one around me at the time. I just was running, went to catch ball, and on the land, it just, boom, it just went. The sort of feeling of it is that you think you're going to look down and your knee's on the side. That kind of, it feels like your kneecap goes out and then sort of back in almost. The way that I've done my ACLs is there's kind of like a movement where I'm going back and then up for the ball, and that was then a really challenge for me mentally as I was coming back to playing, because I didn't want to go for that ball. So I think it was more, I wasn't trying to do it so I didn't injure it, it was just happening. Like I was scared. Every time I'd go for a back and up, in my head I would think snap.
So I ruptured my ACL when I was 16 at Nationals finals.
Ella and Elia play for Manchester Thunder's netball team and have both done their ACLs more than once. But they think there's a discrepancy in how issues in the women's game are treated compared to the men's.
If this was happening in men's sport, do you think there'd be more money, resources and more effort pumped in to trying to work out what the problem is?
Yeah, I think there's always been a huge divide, and it's just about raising awareness for women's sports, which is exciting to see. It's like saying, imagine one of United's main players had injured, the uproar that would come around it and what a missing player they would be. Well, it's exactly the same in any other sport, and they would put their full attention to the recovery, how quick they're getting back.
If you watch Super League or anything, the pace that girls take the ball and like the contest that you have in the air, the amount of pressure you're putting through your joints and your knees is like huge. So I think it is quite a common injury within girls sport, which is why probably we hear of it more and more nowadays.
The players here at Manchester Thunder say they don't think about their previous ACL injuries when they're now training and playing. But what they do really want to know is, can those same injuries actually be prevented?
Manchester Thunder have linked up with the Metropolitan University to do a bespoke piece of research on this subject.
Good job.
So it's quite a new partnership, but we're already working on our first study where we're going to monitor and look at anterior knee laxity across the season. So for example, if they're playing a lot of matches, there's a particular sort of pinch point across the year where there's a lot of games, looking at is that affecting anterior knee laxity and maybe predisposing them to more injuries. We're also going to look at their hormonal profiles, maybe across the menstrual cycle. Is there a time where there may be a change in ligament laxity that again might nudge us towards an increased risk? There are lots of factors, but I think the factors themselves aren't particularly stable. So what I mean by that is you might have 5 or 6 risk factors, but on that given day, one might be more amplified than another, and that might be the thing that pushes that athlete on that day to have the injury.
If these young girls are to become the stars of the future, urgent resources and funding is required to ensure their chances of suffering this injury are significantly reduced.